Hi everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today's story is one you won't want to miss. Filled with emotion, ambition, and an unexpected twist that proves true power doesn't always wear a title. If you love meaningful stories that inspire and surprise you, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's story. The small kitchen of Ramirez Bakery on the corner of 3rd Street in Brooklyn's Sunset Park had long been Elena's world. While kids her age were still tucked into warm blankets, 9-year-old Elena was already hunched over cardboard boxes, folding each edge, labeling pastelitos and croquetas with handwriting that was clumsy but determined. The scent of fried dough mingled with thick café con leche became the fragrance of her childhood. Sweet, yet tinged with the salt of sweat. She's got more business sense than her grandfather ever did, Elena's grandfather would often say with a proud smile, tapping her forehead. 9 years old and already bargaining down the price of guava puree. No one taught her how to negotiate or manage accounts. She learned by watching her grandfather barter with suppliers, by memorizing regular customers' names, and by quietly recalculating expense logs at night with a stubby pencil. She kept those old green notebooks from when she was 11, relics of a silent journey driven by a young girl with a burning dream. You want guava puree? It's $30 a tub, but if we buy with the cafe across the street, it's only $25. Elena had said that one March morning, then darted across the street and returned with a handshake deal like a seasoned negotiator. By the time she was 13, Elena had become her family's right hand. She remembered every regular's name, knew who was allergic to peanuts, and who always showed up on Mondays asking for extra meat in their pastries. While the neighborhood kids were learning to shoot hoops, Elena was learning to spot discrepancies in the bakery's books and correct them before her uncle got hit with penalties. This girl was born to lead, her grandfather would say, and this time, no one argued. But Elena's dream wasn't limited to pastries and receipts. Each night, she sat by the second-floor window overlooking the busy street, armed with an aging laptop and an unstable Wi-Fi signal. She didn't just read books. She devoured articles on venture capital, financial models, and how to create accessible microloans for working-class immigrants. The idea of building a financial platform was born from the people who bought her family's pastries: Cuban, Dominican, and Mexican immigrants who worked hard but couldn't even get a $500 loan to buy a used car for work. At 16, Elena applied for a full-ride scholarship to Hudson State University, a public university in New Jersey known for supporting minority students. No one expected her to get in, a public school kid, no private tutoring, no SAT prep. But Elena wasn't banking on her test scores. She was banking on her story. The girl who grew up between sugar and overdue bills, who saw how the system left hardworking people behind, and who dreamed of changing that with tech. She was accepted, full scholarship, plus a part-time job in the library to help with living costs. College life wasn't glamorous. Elena often walked over a mile from the subway to the dorm to save bus fare. She ate peanut butter sandwiches for days at a time and saved every dollar to buy the coding software she needed to build her finance app. Some nights, she missed the smell of bread rising and her grandfather's laughter, but not once did she question her mission. One chilly autumn afternoon, after her library shift, Elena stopped by a used bookstore. She was in her old gray sweater, hair tied back, browsing for a second-hand copy of The Lean Startup, when a tall stack of books toppled over, nearly hitting her feet. "Whoa, sorry," a male voice called out. Elena looked up. A tall guy in a plain shirt and glasses was scrambling to gather the fallen books. "I'm such a klutz," he said. "No worries," she smiled, kneeling to help. "I've knocked over a whole shelf before. Then I guess I'm only half a disaster today," he chuckled. "I'm Aaron." "Elena," she replied, shaking his hand. In that serendipitous meeting, in a quiet corner of a secondhand bookstore, between a not-yet startup founder and a soft-spoken high school civics teacher, would begin the next chapter of the girl who once folded pastry boxes and balanced ledgers by hand. Hudson State University wasn't the kind of place where anyone noticed a girl like Elena Ramirez. She didn't join clubs. She didn't attend football games. Her days were divided between lectures, library shifts, and late nights staring at lines of code. Her app, tentatively called Bridge Fund, was still a skeleton. But inside her notebooks, pages of diagrams, user flows, and handwritten formulas mapped out something bigger than grades or job fairs. She wasn't trying to build a resume. She was trying to build a solution. At the university library, she worked the evening shifts. When the campus grew quiet and only a few students remained, eyes sunken behind open textbooks. Elena liked the calm, the slow whir of printers, the occasional hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Her favorite spot was the back corner desk, where she could do homework and run code tests without distraction. One night, a familiar voice broke the silence. "I thought I might find you here." It was Aaron. He held a paper bag in one hand and 2 cups of coffee in the other. He was already wearing the hoodie she had teased him about at the bookstore, faded navy, with the sleeves frayed at the ends. "You're stalking me," she smirked. "I'm bribing you with cinnamon rolls from a Cuban place down the block." Elena raised an eyebrow. "You remembered? I have excellent memory. Also, the guy behind the counter knew your name." She laughed despite herself and accepted the coffee. That night, in the fluorescent glow of the stacks, something shifted. They talked for hours about the public school system, about Aaron's students in East Newark who couldn't afford lunch but knew how to recite the Constitution, about Elena's dream to give dignity back to people through simple access to capital. "They don't need charity," she said. "They need respect. Someone to say, 'I trust you with this loan, and I believe you'll repay it.' Because they will." Aaron didn't interrupt. He just listened, the way a good teacher does, waiting, absorbing, gently sharpening her points by asking the right questions. She noticed how his eyes didn't dart to her clothes or her accent or the scar on her hand from a baking tray burn. He saw her, not just what she looked like, but what she carried. Weeks turned into months. Aaron became a regular presence, bringing snacks during study sessions, offering to proofread her scholarship essays, helping test the prototype of Bridge Fund. He wasn't for money either. His father had been a dock worker, his mother a waitress. But he'd grown up with books and belief, 2 things that made him dangerous in the best possible way. They shared long walks by the Hudson River, rain-drenched coffees outside classrooms, and silence that wasn't awkward. When Elena launched the closed beta of her app to 10 users in a small immigrant community in Newark, Aaron was the first to volunteer as a field tester, interviewing clients, translating feedback, even driving people to information sessions. Then came the night that changed everything. Elena had just received an email. Bridge Fund had been selected by the Lincoln Equity Accelerator, a competitive startup program offering $250,000 in seed funding and mentorship. She stared at the screen in disbelief, heart pounding. It wasn't just the money. It was validation, recognition, a chance. She ran down the hallway, out into the rain, and straight to Aaron's apartment. He opened the door, confused, until she leapt into his arms, breathless and soaked. "We got in," she whispered. "Aaron, we got in." He didn't ask what we meant. He just held her tighter. From that night forward, Elena's life accelerated. She met with investors, refined her pitch deck, and traveled between New York and D.C. to attend impact investment summits. She dressed in thrifted blazers and borrowed heels, still riding subways and eating from dollar menus. But her idea, her mission, was no longer invisible. In the shadows, Aaron remained her anchor. He didn't need to stand in the spotlight with her. He was proud just watching her rise, always reminding her where she started and who she was doing this for. Still, not everyone celebrated her success. Her sister, Victoria, remained skeptical. Every time Elena tried to share updates at family dinners, Victoria deflected. "That's cute," she'd say. "Still working on that little app of yours?" "I'm heading the marketing campaign for McAllister's new AI fund. Real money, real clients." Their mother, lured, always tried to smooth things over. "Your sister works very hard too, Elena. Don't make everything a competition." "I'm not," Elena said. "But maybe someone should." It wasn't bitterness. It was grief, a grief that came from realizing your own family sometimes couldn't see you, even when the world finally did. Elena had made it through the hardest part of her climb, but she didn't know yet The most personal test, one that would define everything, was waiting at the edge of a glittering gala under 1,000 golden lights. The Ramirez house in Queens had always been a battleground of subtle comparisons. Growing up, Victoria and Elena had shared a room with bunk beds and floral curtains, but that was where the similarities ended. Victoria was organized, poised, and ruthlessly ambitious. She color-coded her closet at age 11 and ran for student body president before she could legally vote. Elena, on the other hand, came home with flour in her hair and notebooks filled with ideas no one understood. By the time Elena turned 25, she had already built something that had the potential to change lives. Bridge Fund was gaining momentum, landing press features in niche tech magazines and pilot partnerships with nonprofits. But inside the Ramirez household, Victoria still commanded the respect. Victoria had taken the conventional route. Top of her class at Wharton, recruited straight into McAllister and Hunt, one of the most powerful investment firms on the East Coast. She dressed in fitted navy blazers, posted carefully curated photos of her life in Manhattan, and spoke in terms like quarterly growth and market verticals over Sunday dinner. Her parents saw her as the definition of success: stable, stylish, serious. Elena's success, though real, came in quieter forms. A text from a single mother who could finally buy a car because of a microloan, a handshake from a local shop owner in Newark who reopened thanks to Bridge Fund's emergency credit line. One Friday evening, the entire family gathered at their mother's house to celebrate Victoria's recent promotion to executive marketing director. The dining room was full of candles, silver trays of food, and congratulatory toasts. Elena wore a simple green dress and brought homemade pastries as a gift. "So, how's that app of yours doing?" Victoria asked, tilting her wine glass and smiling as if the question were harmless. Elena knew the tone, the one laced with condescension, perfectly balanced between curiosity and dismissal. "It's going well," Elena replied calmly. "We just hit 5,000 active users and closed a pilot round with Lincoln Equity." There was a pause. Their father looked up from his plate. "Lincoln Equity? Isn't that the firm McAllister just partnered with for their financial inclusion initiative?" Elena nodded. "Yes, that's how they found us." Victoria gave a tight smile. "Interesting. You've always been resourceful. That's one word for it." Elena replied with a raised eyebrow. Their mother cut in with forced cheer. "Let's not turn this into work talk. Tonight is about celebrating Victoria." As the night wore on, Elena found herself drifting to the edge of the party, watching her sister hold court like a social queen. Victoria was magnetic, confident, eloquent, and utterly uninterested in Elena's world. To Victoria, success came with polished heels and corner offices. Elena's dirt-under-the-fingernails approach didn't fit the image. That dynamic only deepened in the weeks that followed. One afternoon, Elena received an email from Victoria titled, "Need your help, sis?" Inside was an invitation to a formal gala Victoria was organizing to celebrate the launch of McAllister and Hunt's new Women in Finance initiative. It was a major affair, black tie, high-profile guests, and full media coverage. Elena expected the email to include a request for her to speak or attend as a guest. But the message was clear. "Hey, I know you've done catering before and have experience with events. Would love if you could help coordinate the staff side of the gala. Dress code, timing, logistics. I already have a chef, so don't worry about food. I just need someone reliable I can trust to manage the crew." Elena reread the message twice. It wasn't malicious. It was worse, it was unconscious. To Victoria, Elena was still the girl who boxed pastries and handed out menus. Not a founder, not a CEO, just helpful. That night, Elena vented to Aaron while they folded laundry in his apartment. "She didn't even ask if I was free," Elena said, holding up a shirt like a flag of surrender. "She just assumed I'd say yes, like I'm her reliable assistant." Aaron stayed quiet. "She's not a bad person. She's just blind. She can't see me any other way." Aaron looked at her. "So what are you going to do?" Elena folded the shirt, set it down, and exhaled. "I'm going to show her. Not with speeches. Not with anger. I'll show her the truth, in the only language she understands. Power." A week later, Elena replied to the email. Sure, I'd be happy to help. She called her event coordinator, Riley, a former wedding planner turned logistics wizard who now worked full-time for Bridge Fund. We're taking on a new event, Elena said. We'll manage the floor team, the service order, the entire guest flow. Discreetly, Riley laughed. Whose party is it? My sister's. Oof. Is this going to be one of those? It's going to be the one she never forgets. From that moment on, Elena prepared her staff with military precision. She personally reviewed the guest list, noting key players from Lincoln Equity, tech venture firms, and nonprofit partners. She instructed her team to dress professionally but modestly, blacks and neutrals, hair tied back, no flashy name tags. Elena herself chose a simple black dress, one she had worn at 3 investor meetings already. She didn't want to be recognized as the star of the night. Not yet. Victoria's gala was held at the Thompson Hall Grand Ballroom, a place lined with gold chandeliers, marble columns, and walls that echoed with power. As guests filtered in, Elena stood behind the curtain, directing servers and checking earpieces. From the stage, Victoria gave a glowing speech about empowering women in finance. As we build the next generation of leaders, Victoria said, we must remember where we came from, but never let it define where we're going. Elena almost laughed. If only you believed that. Then came the moment. One of the VIP guests had arrived. Mr. John Whitman, CEO of Lincoln Equity, a man known for his sharp eye and sharper instincts. Victoria rushed to greet him. Mr. Whitman, such an honor. I've heard wonderful things about your inclusion accelerator. Whitman looked past her shoulder. I'm actually here to meet someone very specific. Elena Ramirez. She's the founder of Bridge Fund. She should be here. Victoria blinked. Elena. Yes. She said she'd be overseeing operations tonight. Victoria's smile froze. Before she could respond, Whitman spotted Elena near the catering table. He walked directly toward her and extended a hand. Ms. Ramirez, I've been wanting to meet you in person. Bridge Fund is exactly what the industry needs right now. Scalable, responsible, and, frankly, 10 years ahead of where we are. Elena shook his hand, calm and steady. Thank you. I'm honored to work with your team. We're excited about the partnership. Behind her, Victoria stood still, her expression unreadable, her champagne untouched. Elena turned, smiled at her sister, and simply said, thanks again for the invite. In that moment, Elena didn't need applause. She didn't need a spotlight. The truth had arrived, dressed in black and carrying no business card, and everyone saw it. The gala ended with a standing ovation for Victoria. The press clapped for her speech, the donors praised the venue, and executives exchanged business cards in a blur of champagne and camera flashes. On the surface, everything was perfect, but just beneath that golden shimmer, a fault line had opened. Elena left quietly. She declined the post-event drinks and headed home alone, her heels clicking against the wet pavement. No dramatic exit, no parting words. Just the image burned in her mind. Victoria frozen in place, watching the CEO of Lincoln Equity shake her Waitress sister's hand like she was the most powerful person in the room. By Monday morning, the ripple had become a wave. TechBeat Weekly ran an article. Bridge Fund CEO Elena Ramirez attends gala as staff, then stuns room with big reveal. Finance Forward called it a masterclass in humility and brilliance. LinkedIn exploded with clips from the event, posted by guests who realized, after the fact, who she really was. Did anyone else realize the woman directing the servers was actually the startup founder of the year? How did Victoria Ramirez not know her own sister was Elena Ramirez, the CEO? Iconic, quiet, powerful. We need more leaders like her. Elena didn't respond. She didn't repost. She didn't comment. She went back to work. At Bridge Fund's modest office in Newark, the team gathered around a chipped coffee table, eating bagels and reading the press in silence. I've never seen something go viral without even trying, Riley muttered between bites. You didn't even have a microphone. Elena smiled. Maybe that's the point. Her phone buzzed again. Calls from reporters, a voicemail from a TEDx organizer, and 3 missed calls from her mother. But it was the final message that made her pause. Victoria, can we talk? Elena hesitated, not out of spite, but from the quiet weight of everything left unsaid. Still, she agreed to meet. Not in a restaurant, not at a family gathering. She chose a quiet corner table at Cafe Andino, a tiny Bolivian cafe they used to visit as kids. Victoria arrived 15 minutes late, sunglasses on, hair pulled back too tightly. "Busy day," she said, sitting down. Elena nodded. "They usually are." There was a pause, one filled with old resentments, unspoken comparisons, and the echo of childhood rivalries. "So," Victoria finally said, "you planned all that?" "No, Elena replied. "I planned to help. You just didn't ask what else I was." Victoria bit her lip. "You could have told me." "I did," Elena said quietly. 100 times. You just never listened." Victoria looked down at her latte, suddenly aware of how fragile foam could be. "I didn't mean to insult you, but you did. Every time you reduced me to a side project or called it cute. Every time you asked for help like I was a backup dancer in your life." Victoria Saif. "You're right. I thought I was being supportive. I thought helping you find something to do was helpful." Elena leaned back, "And I thought I didn't need your approval. But that didn't stop me from wanting it." The cafe buzzed around them, people ordering saltinas, kids laughing over soda cans. Two sisters sat in the middle of it all, finally stripped of performance. "I was jealous," Victoria admitted suddenly. "Not of your app, of your freedom, your conviction. You always knew what you were fighting for. I was just climbing because that's what I was told to do." That confession landed like a pebble in still water, small but impossible to ignore. Elena softened. "You're brilliant, Vic, but you spent so long proving yourself to others, you forgot to ask what you actually want." Victoria looked up. For the first time in years, her eyes weren't cold. "I don't know what I want," she whispered. "But I know I don't want to be the woman who publicly dismisses her own sister. That's not who I thought I was." Elena offered a small smile. "Then don't be." They didn't hug. They didn't cry. But when Victoria asked, "Do you want to come to Mom's on Sunday?" and Elena said, "Only if you don't ask me to bring dessert," it felt like something new had begun, fragile, but real. But peace, even in families, comes in waves. The attention Bridge Fund received from the gala buzz had its benefits, but also its complications. Elena's inbox was flooded with speaking requests, investor meetings, even offers to acquire her platform. For the first time, she felt like the world saw her. But it came with a price. One afternoon, while preparing for a roundtable on women in fintech, Riley burst into her office. "You need to see this," they said, holding up a tablet. On the screen was a feature article in the Wall Street Business Review. Victoria Ramirez, marketing executive, inspires sister's viral tech moment. The headline spun the narrative. The story credited Victoria with mentoring Elena, guiding her from bakery roots to business success. Elena stared at the screen. Her jaw clenched. "I didn't authorize this," she said. "None of this is true." "She didn't write it," Riley replied. But someone clearly handed the story to the right hands. That night, Elena didn't sleep. She stared at her ceiling, torn between fury and fatigue. Had anything really changed? Was this always how the world worked? One woman building something brick by brick, only to have someone else put their name on it? She wanted to call Victoria, demand answers, but she stopped. Instead, she drafted her own article. Not a rebuttal. A truth. "I was the server of my sister's gala, and I'd do it again." By Elena Ramirez. "I didn't attend that gala for recognition. I didn't want a headline. I wanted to support someone I love, even when that love was complicated. But I won't let others rewrite my story to fit their version of success. I'm the daughter of bakers. I built Bridge Fund with borrowed laptops and secondhand textbooks. I was overlooked in rooms, dismissed by relatives, and told my dreams were too small or too strange. But I stayed. I worked, and I led, quietly. If you're reading this and feel like no one sees your worth unless it's stamped with logos or LinkedIn titles, know this. Your value is not measured by how loudly others clap for you. It's measured by what you build when no one is looking." The article was shared 200,000 times in 3 days. Elena didn't mention Victoria once. She didn't need to. The truth stood on its own. And for the first time, Elena felt something better than revenge, freedom. 2 weeks after Elena's op-ed swept across social media, she walked into the studios of CNBC Now in Midtown Manhattan. It wasn't the kind of place she normally felt comfortable in: walls of glass, floors that echoed, people who walked like they were always late for something important. But Elena wasn't nervous. She was clear. The anchor, Danielle Brooks, was a respected figure in finance journalism, smart, sharp, and known for pushing her guests out of their PR script. Elena had agreed to the interview because Danielle had asked one simple question that no one else had. What do you want people to understand about you? Not your company, not your sister. You. So Elena sat in the makeup chair, wore a dark green blouse under her blazer. Only blazer, the one she wore to every investor pitch, and waited. As the crew adjusted lights, she noticed her palms weren't sweating. That surprised her. The segment began. Today, we're speaking with Elena Ramirez, founder and CEO of Bridge Fund, the fintech platform redefining access to microloans for underserved communities. Elena, welcome. Thank you, Elena said, smiling calmly. Danielle didn't waste time. You've been called everything from a quiet disruptor to the accidental icon of humble leadership. Does any of that feel true to you? Elena paused. I think people see a moment and want to assign a title to it. But the moment doesn't define me. The work does. Danielle leaned in. Let's talk about that moment. The gala. It went viral. But off camera, that was your sister's event. Have you two reconciled? Elena looked directly into the camera. My sister and I love each other. But love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's complicated. Sometimes it doesn't clap for you until the world does first. Danielle nodded slowly, impressed. That's a powerful way to put it. Then she shifted. Some say your success only became visible because of the spectacle, because of how poetic it was. The CEO who served water at a gala. Do you think that says more about the industry than about you? Elena didn't blink. Absolutely. If a woman has to be mistaken for the help before people respect her hustle, we have a serious problem. The interview aired that evening and lit a fire. Clips from the segment trended on X and Instagram. Financial blogs dissected every line. Schools requested Elena as a speaker. Nonprofits asked for partnerships. Meanwhile, Bridge Fund's user base surged by 38% in 1 week. But the praise wasn't universal. One article, published in a corporate gossip site, carried the headline, "Two Sisters, One Spotlight. Is Elena Ramirez capitalizing on her sister's brand?" It quoted anonymous McAllister and Hunt employees who claimed Elena had manipulated the event for attention, portraying Victoria as the real architect of their mutual rise. Elena closed the tab. She'd seen it coming. The backlash, the whispers, the gendered framing. She didn't respond. But the next morning, she found a letter slid under her apartment door. Elena, I didn't write that article, but I also didn't stop it. And I'm sorry. Beak. Elena stared at the handwriting. Sharp cursive. Familiar. Real. She folded the note and put it in her drawer. She wasn't ready to respond. Not yet. Meanwhile, back at Bridge Fund, the growing attention brought a different kind of tension. Riley pulled her into a meeting room. We need to talk. Elena looked up for her laptop. About what? About scale. About capital. About whether we're ready for this much spotlight. I mean, look at these. Riley opened a slide deck. Fortune 500 partnerships. A call from the Gates Foundation. A private dinner invite with Senator Kim. Why do you sound worried? Elena asked. Because this is where good ideas get eaten by good intentions, Riley said. If we grow too fast, we'll compromise the model. We'll lose the people we're trying to serve. Elena closed the laptop. I built Bridge Fund to serve the people who never get invited to dinner with senators. I'm not selling that vision just because the world finally noticed. Riley smiled. That's what I hoped you'd say. But we still need to talk strategy. They'll come for you next. Not with criticism, but with offers. And Riley was right. 3 days later, a black town car pulled up outside Bridge Fund's office. From it stepped Landon Shaw, a billionaire investor known for swooping in with multi-million-dollar offers to absorb promising startups into his private equity firm. He walked into the office wearing a gray suit, flanked by assistants. He didn't introduce himself, just extended a hand. Ms. Ramirez, you've built something elegant. I'd like to make you an offer. Elena folded her arms. I don't recall asking for one. Landon smiled, unbothered. You're smart. You know where this is headed. Your growth curve isn't sustainable without serious backing. I'm offering you $25 million for 51% of bridge fund. Riley choked on her coffee. Elena didn't flinch. You want control, she said. I want stewardship. Your mission is admirable. But with our capital and infrastructure, we can scale this globally in a year. And lose the trust of the communities we built it for, Elena said calmly. Landon raised an eyebrow. Trust is a luxury. Impact is scale. Elena smiled slightly. No, impact is people. And we're not for sale. The meeting ended. As Landon left, he turned to her. You'll regret this. Elena met his gaze. Not nearly as much as I'd regret forgetting why I started. That night, as the city lights flickered outside her window, Elena sat in silence. Not exhausted, but aware. Aware that success came not just with praise, but pressure. That every choice she made from now on would be watched, measured, judged. She thought about her parents. About Aaron, who texted her every morning with "breathe first." Win later. About her team, who worked through weekends because they believed. And about Victoria, who, despite everything, was still her sister. Elena opened her drawer and took out the note. This time, she replied, Beak, you didn't stop it, but you also didn't lie. That's something. I still want to believe in us. Just not in the way the world packages it. Let's start again, off camera. Dinner at Mom's? You bring the wine. I'll bring dessert. Sunday dinner at the Ramirez house had always been sacred. Growing up, it meant arroz con pollo, tamarind soda, laughter, and the occasional yelling match over board games. But since both daughters had grown up and gone separate ways, those dinners had become more symbolic than routine, filled with updates, polite smiles, and silences that said more than words ever could. This time, it felt different. Elena arrived first. She brought flan, homemade, the way their grandmother used to make it, with just a hint of orange zest. Her mother opened the door, her eyes already watery. Elena, she said, pulling her into a hug. Mi niña, look at you. You saw the interview? Elena asked, already knowing the answer. I saw everything. Your uncle in Tampa won't stop sharing it on Facebook. They both laughed. 10 minutes later, Victoria arrived. No sunglasses this time. No curate outfit. Just jeans, flats, and a bag of wine. Mom, she said gently, then turned to Elena. Hey. Elena nodded. Hey. They sat at the kitchen table, the same table where they'd once argued over the last croqueta, where Victoria had filled out her college applications, and where Elena had practiced her first pitch by presenting a redesigned menu for the bakery. Their mother served dinner, watching them like someone watching two feral cats try to coexist in a shared yard. For a while, they ate in silence. It was Victoria who broke it. I read your letter. Elena looked up. I deserved it, Victoria added. But I still want to fix things. Elena exhaled. I don't need you to fix anything. I just need you to know I'm not behind you. I'm not under you. I'm not your shadow. I know. No, you didn't, Elena said softly. For years, you didn't. I don't blame you for not understanding my world. But I do blame you for not trying. Victoria set her fork down. I didn't know how to see you. You made me feel unnecessary. Elena blinked. You were never unnecessary. You were just louder. The two sisters stared at each other, an ocean of childhood, competition, and unspoken apologies between them. Then Elena said, Remember when I came home from Hudson State that first semester, and I told you I was working on an app? You laughed. You said, That's cute. I went upstairs and cried. Victoria's face flushed. I don't remember that, but I believe you. And I remember everything, Elena whispered. Their mother, standing near the sink, turned away, pretending not to hear, but wiping her cheek with the edge of her sleeve. The flan came out. The silence lingered. Then Victoria asked, Can I ask you something? Elena nodded. If Bridge Fund gets too big, will it still be yours? Elena thought about it for a moment. I don't know, she admitted. Maybe it won't, but I'll still be me. I didn't start this to be famous. I started to make sure no one else felt invisible. Victoria smiled, a little sad. I think I finally understand. Just then, Elena's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced down. A message from Aaron. Check your inbox. It's good. Elena opened her email. Her eyes widened. The Gates Foundation had just awarded Bridge Fund a $2.5 million grant to expand its services nationwide. The email read, "We believe Bridge Fund's Dignity First lending model is the future of community finance. We are honored to support your next chapter." Her mother noticed the change in Elena's face. "What is it, Mija?" Elena turned the phone so they could both read it. The room fell quiet. Victoria leaned back. "So, you're officially the most successful person at this table." Elena shook her head, laughing. "No, just the one with the biggest to-do list tomorrow." Their mother raised her glass. "To my daughters, the loud one and the quiet one. May they finally start listening to each other." They clinked glasses. For the first time in years, it didn't feel like two women trying to outshine each other. It felt like two women, two sisters, sitting at a table they had built with mistakes, ambition, and finally, understanding. But even as Elena laughed with her family, a part of her remained grounded. She knew visibility wasn't the finish line. It was a doorway. And behind that door, more choices waited. Bigger ones, harder ones, ones that would challenge everything she believed in. The first time Elena Ramirez walked onto the stage at the Global Women in Impact Summit in Washington, D.C., she wore the same blazer from her first investor meeting. She stood in front of 2,000 people, executives, founders, politicians, students, and didn't flinch. She didn't need to perform. She just needed to speak. "I started Bridge Fund because I saw my neighbors, hardworking people, get turned away by banks for needing help too small to be profitable. I didn't want to build a unicorn. I wanted to build a bridge." The applause didn't come immediately, but when it did, it was real. After the summit, she stood alone in the green room, holding a paper cup of tea, watching the city lights flicker beyond the glass. She thought about how far she'd come, from folding pastry boxes in Brooklyn to funding women-led co-ops in Kansas, Detroit, and New Orleans. Aaron stepped in, wrapping his arms gently around her. "I think you're officially a movement now," he whispered. She turned. "I'm just getting started." He grinned. "Of course you are. That's the terrifying part." Back in New Jersey, the Bridge Fund office was barely big enough for the staff now. Desks had spilled into the hallway. Interns shared laptops. But morale had never been higher. Riley cornered her one morning. "We need to talk about expansion." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Again, we've outgrown this office, and our old servers, and our budget projection model." Elena smiled. "Let's fix that." But just as they were about to head into a strategy meeting, her phone rang. It was Victoria. "Hey, Elena answered. Everything okay?" "I just got an offer," Victoria said breathlessly, "from a women-led impact firm in Boston. They want me to head their strategic initiatives division. It's a pivot from high-yield finance to values-driven funding." "That's incredible," Elena said. "Are you going to take it?" "I think I am," Victoria replied. "But I wanted to tell you first, because you inspired it." Elena stood still, heart swelling. "Come celebrate tonight?" Victoria asked. "I'll bring the flan." Elena smiled. That night, surrounded by family and a few of her closest team members, Elena sat on the rooftop of her apartment building. Victoria popped open a bottle of champagne. Riley passed around plastic cups, and Aaron played music from a Bluetooth speaker. No reporters, no headlines, just joy. As stars flickered overhead, Victoria leaned over. "You know," she said, "I used to think success was about who stood the tallest. And now?" Elena asked. "I think it's about who builds the table." Elena looked out over the city skyline, alive, noisy, unrelenting, and for the first time, didn't feel like she had to prove anything. Not to investors, not to family, not even to herself. She had built the table. She had filled it with people who believed. And nothing, not doubt, not silence, not even the titles she never asked for, could dim the light that had always been hers to carry.